It
has to be.
Whoa, weird.
Right.
That
You know,
that updated since earlier today. The desktop version of Facebook.
yeah. That a couple days ago got me.
Hey, we're live too, so you guys are. This is
Almost.
like
Almost.
real. Oh,
Yeah.
we're live.
Almost.
So
Yeah, well, we are live.
yeah,
All right.
see.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, see, you just said. I saw you say almost in the
Yeah,
background.
Facebook is Facebook did. They've been experimenting with it for a while, but
No, I mean I was just on Facebook on the desktop a few hours ago, and now it's like completely different looking.
yeah, they had teased it a while ago, and I opted out of it. I didn't like it, but now we're all stuck with it now.
Yeah, it's kind of like remember back in the day when newsfeed became a thing and everybody was up in arms.
Yeah. All right, so we're live here, ladies and gentlemen, with our good buddy Kyle Anderson. He's our friend in education, in technology, and in beverages as well.
Yeah.
So welcome, Kyle.
Thank you.
Kyle is he's the man. He's the author of an amazing book called To the Edge EDU, all about risk taking, and the benefits of risk taking. And the book talks about the risk that Kyle has done and how it's paid off for him. And I think right now this is so appropriate because we there's more risk taking going on in education now than ever before. People are almost being forced to take risks. So I think Kyle is definitely an appropriate person to bring on. We had Kyle on a while back. It was promoting his book when it came out, and he was the last guest we had before we actually started doing Facebook Live. So I'm like, you know what, two birds with one stone. Kyle gets to finally get him on Facebook Live, and you know what, it's more appropriate now than when we had him on then. So thanks for joining us, buddy. Good to see you.
Thanks. It's funny. You were talking about how I'm the man or whatever. No, I say you're the man for one. And my wife and I we were just talking about this the other night. We were having a conversation about different stuff, and you and I had been texting back and forth about pro wrestling and Thundercats, which I mean, amazing. And my wife and I decided that had you and I grew up in the same town, we would have been best friends, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. So it just took me moving 2,000 some miles and a little organization called Q Inc. to bring us together.
That's right. Hey,
and
so
Kat, I don't care what they say about you. You're all right too. So.
Oh, hey, thanks, man. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Guess what? I don't really care what they say about me either. So we're the same here. So we always talk about here on CV Tech Talk what we are drinking. By the way, Kyle also has a great podcast where they talk about what they're drinking as well.
Yes.
We'll talk about that in a moment. But Adam, can you please tell everyone what we are drinking tonight?
So I didn't bring the bottle out today, but we let it breathe in this carafe here first. This is a 2017 Sangiovese from Cardella Winery out here, not too far from us here in the Central Valley.
And we
actually found it because I actually went to high school with the owner, so it was kind of cool to reconnect with an old high school classmate. And what's the reason why we chose this one?
So we were thinking about when you're taking risks, you have to be bold to go out there, and you got to just do something and not care, if it's going to work or not, just go for it. And so Adam said that a Sangiovese seems bold.
For me, it seems very bold because I like saying it, Sangiovese. It sounds very mafioso. And, the mafia is all about, taking risks. And so it definitely, I believe it was appropriate for tonight's topic and guest.
Absolutely. So we do have Jerry on from where's Jerry?
The Bay Area.
From Bay Area. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and follow Jerry here. So she's an ELA teacher and current SPED MMD intern. Awesome. Welcome. So Kyle, if you want to go ahead and let us know about let everyone know about your podcast where you talk about what you guys are drinking as well. That'd be great.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't been running behind getting home. Traffic was kind of a bear getting back home time, so I didn't even have a chance to grab a drink. But I did record an episode of the Beer EDU podcast with my buddy Ben Dixon the other night, and our guest was Tyler Keefe, an educator out of Nampa, Idaho. And I had a bruiser of a beer that night. A while back, they always talk about how wine gets better with age, but so do some beers.
Really?
And a while back, I was able to pick up Sierra Nevada makes a beer called Bigfoot. It's a barley wine. It's just a big, heavy duty, highly hopped beer. It's really great stuff when it's fresh, and it's actually even better when it's been aged. I actually was able to buy 12 bottles of different years, 23 bottles of 2016, 3 2014, 2011, and 2010. And I cracked into one of my 2011s the other night, and it was beautiful. So, but yeah, so a little bit more about the show. Ben and I, we decided a few years ago, we created this podcast as kind of the basis of when you go to the bar on a Friday after a long week of work and you swear you're not going to talk about work, but then that's what you do. We decided to turn into a podcast and geek out about beer and education. So we have a great time with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely. And where can they find your podcast?
Oh, you can find it wherever you listened to the podcast. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Google. It is on all those places. We host it on Anchor, so it's also on Anchor. We got a website, beeredupodcast.com. There's a guest form on there. We're always looking for people to talk to, share their passion of education. And you don't have to be a beer drinker. We do not discriminate what you drink. We've had wine drinkers. We've had whiskey drinkers, which Ben and I are both whiskey drinkers too. And we have had people coming on with some Aquafina flat water too. So
right.
yeah, so any of those. So I do
Nice.
Real quick on Twitter, Jerry, happy to be here, and she enjoyed my book. So I thank you. I appreciate you checking the book out. I really enjoy it. I always love hearing when people have enjoyed my work. So thank you very much, Jerry.
Awesome. So question 1 to drop. And Jamar gave a thumbs up for hashtag beer edu as well here on Facebook.
Jamar's one of our new coaches, elementary coaches in our district.
Cool.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah, Jamar's been
welcome, Jamar.
Yeah, he's been we don't have our elementary tech coach retired at the end of last year, and they haven't replaced her yet. But Jamar and all the other elementary tech or coaches have been picking up the slack. So Jamar's been crushing out there. So good to have him on board as a coach now.
Yeah, absolutely. So question 1 here. Why is it important to be a risk taker as an educator? Great question.
So when I think of risk taking, I'm thinking of trial and error. I'm not thinking of being reckless, but trial and error, and those little small risks you take when trial and error, that's where the real authentic learning happens. From when we're in Google Innovator Academy, they talk about iteration, those constant iterations from trial and error. Build something up, tear it back down, and see where you went wrong, where you went right. And I think that kind of authentic learning from trial and error that you get from risk taking is something definitely we need to be modeling for our students.
Yeah,
they do it naturally when they play video games. Trial and error. They'll try it out, and they'll come back and they'll learn and they'll adapt. So we can apply that to their schoolwork. I think we're on the right track.
I love that you said the risk taking is not about being reckless, because a lot of times I think a lot of people associate risk with something that's either reckless or absolutely huge, where that's not really it. Like you said, with the whole trial and error thing, it's about those little things, trying something out, and if it fails, you learn from it and you move on. Where as a lot of people, they just associate those big things and those reckless things. So I'm really glad you pointed that out, Adam.
That also, I'm a brain science geek. So I've been reading a lot about how gaming, because you're saying kids love games, right? Why do they love games? They're willing to take these risks because they're small risks. We go up one level at a time, right? And so that increases the dopamine in our brain, which increases motivation. So like you're saying, Kyle, if I just jump off the cliff and try to just, skyrocket to using 25 new apps tomorrow, right? Probably not going to be too successful. And then I'm going to lose my motivation. But if I try one new strategy, another new strategy tomorrow, that one didn't quite work, I'm going to try a different app, it's going to be a lot more successful. So I like that you said that. I think that definitely applies to education as well.
I like what here we have Shannon Moore jumped on Twitter, and she says it's important for a risk taker as an educator because innovation never happens by playing it safe. We always strive to push the limits in an effort to learn from mistakes and escape our comfort zone. I like the part about comfort zone. I always say that when I'm presenting a session, whether at a conference or now everything's all virtual. I say, if you ever feel like you're outside of your comfort zone, you're in the right spot, because it's outside of that comfort zone where you're going to have that most authentic learning. That's where you're going to learn more than if you were feeling comfortable. So I'm glad she said that.
What else I like that she said was that's a good model for students. So if we step out of our comfort zone, then students know I can try that too. It's also good for administrators to do that, to model for their teachers. That can be very powerful.
And right now is such a perfect time for that. A lot of us are in a virtual environment, and the co-teachers that I'm working with, our thing right now is we're telling the kids, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to try stuff, and we might look dumb doing it, but it's going to be for the better in the long run. So we're being vulnerable with the kids. So we're hoping that helps build that relationship so the kids can be vulnerable and try stuff too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You know, I have seen admin be a lot more risk-taking lately than ever before. And I think that they're feeling a lot more comfortable with the risk-taking, because the word that's being thrown out a lot now is grace. We're going to be giving everybody grace. And just hearing that from the top down, knowing that you have grace, that we may try and fail, but the fact that, you know, our leaders are going to give us that grace and that ability to say, all right, you know what, pick yourself up and let's figure this out next time. That's huge. And you know, I was really glad to hear some of our admins say that, and it's been making people a lot more at ease.
You know, I think they feel that because they feel that they have some grace from the state.
Yeah.
To be honest. So it starts even higher than that, right? If you want to talk about the supposed top, which is a myth anyway, but according to myth. We do have on Twitter, Jared Hamilton. He joins us every once in a while, teacher from British Columbia. So great to see Jared, here.
So we got international already. That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
So question 2 just dropped, and it says, how can risk bring about reward and or change in your classroom, school, or district? I think we were kind of talking about that a little bit. But let's see. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. I think right now we all, like you said earlier, Adam, we have to take risks right now. You know, we're in this spot. We don't even have a choice. And so I'm seeing teachers try things they never would have dreamed of trying before, but kind of out of necessity. Just to connect with their students. So it's going to change, because anytime you do something new, you don't leave the same person. You know, you have this additional experience, you have additional learning. So, I mean, I think everyone's going to be better off in the long run, but I will tell you also, it's causing a lot of stress and anxiety in education for teachers and parents and students as well. So it is certainly not comfortable, but I do believe there will be learning from all of that.
Definitely.
Yeah, kind of like what we were talking about, just the different things that we've been trying and just being vulnerable in front of the kids. So I think that's part of the change there. Okay, the reward being that kids are going to try new things a little bit more, because, I mean, you hear people say this. I don't know if there's any actual research on this about how today's generation of kids, they play it safe too much and whatever. So this whole scenario we're in right now, by teachers trying new things, that's going to be the reward, where more kids are going to want to try things out because they're seeing adults put themselves in that vulnerable position. That's the way I see it, at least.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, if that ends up becoming the culture that comes out of this whole mess that we're in, then, you know, as I forgot who said it earlier, Shannon Moore, that innovation is going to be the byproduct of it. People are coming up with all these new hacks in different ways. I mean, everyone's going to become their own version of Joe Marquez. They're going to have all these hacks for everything that comes along. Someone has a hack for it. And I was really proud of some of my teachers that they've jumped on the Jamboard bandwagon since the beginning of August, and
that's a
they
great
found
one.
all these new ways to use it. And when they figure it out, they're like, "Hey, you've been holding out on me. You know, how come you never showed me this?" I'm like, "Well, I was trying to get you, you know, getting in the door first. Jamboard's a little that's more like a second or third lesson. And now that you guys are in, now you guys are fine. I didn't even need to do it. You guys did it on your own." And that means I must be doing my job. If you're figuring this out on your own and not having to go to me first, then you're coming to me just to show what you came up with. That's that's what makes a tech coach smile.
I'm going to drop a little hot take on you here. I'm going to kind of go against what you're saying there, Adam. I think that Jamboard should be moved up. I think Jamboard is a tool that should be introduced to teachers before Google Drawings, for example.
If I kind of agree with you, Kyle, because especially with the young students. So I would get these young kids using first graders, and we're using Google Slides. We're using Docs. We're using Google Keep, right? And that's great. And we did it in the classroom, but they're not in the classroom anymore. And so for our students that haven't used these tools before or that are new to G Suite, the great thing about Jamboard is all the tools are just logos on the side. It's not overwhelming. So I like that. But I didn't used to lead with Jamboard because it didn't used to be that you could attach a copy for each student in classroom, and it's a mess collaboratively. It's just a mess. Like I would not want to do this with an entire class if I didn't know the kids. But I don't know. So has your change your?
I'm more in line with what Kyle's saying, because Jamboard has they've seen the way people have kind of remixed its use. It's not right there. I think part of the reason why I never led with it was because it's not front center of G Suite. You have to go looking for it. It's not. It's at the bottom of your waffle. You have to manually move it.
True.
Or you have to go looking for it in Drive, or you have to go to the actual site. So that's probably why I never really led with it before. So it was kind of out. It was like out of mind for me. So I never really led with it. But now it's the other way around, and the fact that it's going to be integrated into Google Meet is going to take it to a whole new level. It's going to be front and center there, and now it's going to be the one that I go to, and I use it more for myself. I don't know if you're familiar with EduScrum. It's something that we use with our CVQ board to kind of to improve our productivity, and I kind of created my own version of EduScrum on Jamboard, and that. I'm just dragging and dropping the stick. It's really, that's all I'm really doing. But the same idea of EduScrum I do on Jamboard, that helps me keep track of all the million projects that I'm doing all at once. I know a lot of teachers are rocking it with using Jamboard for some collaboration. It's not the easiest thing to collaborate with, but once you figure it out, man, it's
great for adults.
Yeah.
With colleagues, I love to ideate on Jamboard. Definitely. So question 3 just dropped.
Okay.
And it says, what is a risk you recently took that elicited failure and or regret as an educator?
Ooh.
This is a great question. Kyle made created these questions. And I like this question, Kyle, because this is admitting the fact that risk doesn't always work out the way we wanted it to. And so if I'm the type of person that says, well, Kyle, I don't want to take a risk. I'm just going to stick with what I'm doing. It's worked. Why do I need to do that? There could be failure. What will you say to me?
Wow. You
I didn't prepare you.
You got to start with something small. So I was having a conversation on Twitter with Joe Marquez, Jake Miller, and I can't remember where the initial, because we got tagged in a tweet asking us about, the initial tweet was asking about what kind of tools they could use to help a teacher take PDFs and create them to where a student could write on them digitally.
Okay.
And the initial response, I believe it was from Joe, was that you don't really want that. We don't want kids just doing worksheets digitally. So we need to be able to try to get them to try something new. And then Jake kind of backed that up and seconded that motion and said, yeah, here's a few great tools. But then I looked at that and I thought to myself, I go, that teacher, I don't know where that teacher's at in their digital journey, whether they're a brand new ed techie or if they're somebody that's that they're a seasoned pro. I don't know. I'm going to lean more towards they're the brand new one. And by giving them a shed full of tools like that could completely turn them off from even trying something, let alone being successful trying it. So then I suggested maybe being a little bit more gentle about the approach. So when I'm thinking about someone saying like, I just don't want to try it. So analyze what they're not wanting to try. If it's something massive like that, absolutely, you got to try to coax them into something a little bit smaller, where you're taking a nibble versus trying to shove the entire pizza in your mouth with one bite. So,
Yeah.
and if it's something really small, that's one that, like, I don't want to say that don't even bother, but sometimes if it's something that is so incredibly small that they're not even willing to try that, it's one of those deals where, like, you may not be able to change your mind regardless of what you say. You try, but you try to inspire by showing some of the smaller stuff instead. That's kind of how I would approach that.
You know what I found that's interesting is, I do agree with you from a coaching standpoint. I think that's a great take. You got to build that trust. But what's interesting is now I'm finding all these teachers that before were so hesitant to use tech, and now they're eating it all up. And I know, Adam, you've had the same experience, but I don't think so I find that in our environment, I haven't yet found someone that is 100% against my support for ed tech, because now all of a sudden, even if it's something small, like you say, I want to write on a PDF, they still want to do something, and they need us to give them some support. So they're willing to take, even that is a big risk for some people, but they're asking now, and maybe they don't like it. They don't like that they're having to do it. We're in this environment where there's not really a choice. So maybe that's where there's going to be some reward, is there's going to be a lot of learning from those that perhaps wouldn't have come to us before.
Yeah, I just helped a teacher this morning. She's a PE teacher, and technology is the furthest thing from her mind until all this happened. And so she took a risk this morning. This morning she tried to she was trying to, for the first time, use two screens, and she couldn't get it to work. And it was for some reason that she was working off an ancient second monitor, and what she was just like, I don't get it. I saw what you posted about I emailed out a picture of my workstation, which is all kind of like high tech and stuff. And she's like, she wanted to kind of do that. She tried it, and she was actually doing, all she really did, she had her laptop next to her desktop and was trying to multitask, that was a huge first step for her.
Yeah.
And she wasn't afraid to come ask. I know a lot of times I work with people who are just too afraid to ask. They feel kind of sheepish and dumbfounded when it doesn't work out. But she came to me, was like, I saw what you did. Like, can you help me out? I'm like, sure. So she had just gotten a new laptop. I'm like, hey, did they give you that nice hockey puck adapter? Like, yeah, all right, here we go. So within 2 minutes, I wired through VGA her old monitor to her laptop, and boom, she had her screen extended. And the look on her face, like, oh my god, like, if I didn't even try any of that, you wouldn't have been here to help me get it right. And now my workflow is just through the roof now. It's so much better. So again, I like Kyle said, that it's like you start with those small ones, and then it's going to build from there.
I think it's funny how a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, I thought the dual monitor thing, that's the dumbest thing ever. Why would I ever have that? And then the first time I worked with it, like, oh, this is great. And then when this whole thing happened, first thing I did was when I moved into my new place, I'm like, okay, I got to have a desk. Okay, I'm not doing this at the kitchen table anymore, and I got to get a second monitor. So luckily, one of my wife's friends had a desk she wanted to get rid of, and she gave it to me. And then another friend, he had like 3 spare monitors in his house. He goes, there's no power cord or connectors, but I'll give you the monitor for free. Okay. So it cost me $10 to get the power and the VGA to HDMI connector for the monitor. And now I'm looking at I want to get a third monitor, because I got my setup now where I got the second monitor on a pedestal off to my left. I want to get a second pedestal with a third monitor that's above my laptop, and then I'll be cooking with gas, as they say.
So Howard Cuyuna is here.
All right, from the Bay.
Awesome. So he said he's adapted curriculum to lend access to students, but there were more factors involved other than the academic complexity, so the stress increased.
Yeah.
I've heard about this lately. So we talk a lot about choice boards, right? Mm-hmm. I'd rather call them learning menus, but people like the choice board term. So anyway, I've heard lately about this choice fatigue, Like the students right now are so just, they're spending so much time just trying to figure out how to do this new way of learning that when you give them too many choices, it's just too much. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I've seen a couple of articles about it lately, but this is something brand new that I'd never really thought about before. So I did find that interesting.
It's very similar to, like, we've had this conversation, the three of us, and I'm sure you've had this with other people several times about, and we even touched on it a little bit earlier about how with a teacher, you don't give them a book with 20 different tools in it and say, go implement all these.
Mhm.
Okay. You tell them to pick one or two things and get really good at them. And
Right.
right now we're in a situation where, especially with kids that are doing everything virtually, do they really want to have a choice from 8 different things to do, especially if they don't know how to do like 5 of them?
Yeah.
So, and then the
Me
other
too.
comparison I've heard is that when you go to the Cheesecake Factory, I don't know if you've been there ever,
Mhm.
but when you do, their menu is literally a book, and it has
Yes.
ads in it because they have to pay to print their menu because there is so much there, and it ends up taking you 45 minutes just to decide what you want to eat. And then by the time you order, then you're like, oh, I don't know if I ordered the right thing, especially when you start seeing other people's food come out. And to me, that the choice board or the learning menu, whichever way you want to call it, to me, it's very similar, especially right now.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times people, they feel like, I'm taking a risk. I'm gonna jump in head first and do all this choice board stuff and give them all these choices. That for me, it sounds like a reckless risk. We're
Mm.
being, we're, I don't think that they were doing it by design. It was like they were inadvertently being a little reckless, and it had some it's having those consequences for the students. It's definitely something we can learn from. I know my first instinct was how many different tools can I shoot out to my teachers. I had to slow my roll. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to scare so many people. But yeah.
So my thought on that for teachers and students is it should be more like the menu at In-N-Out Burger, where there's only a couple things. Is there a secret menu if the kid wants to do something else?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's that secret menu there too, if the kid wants to. But on the surface, for 90% of the kids, maybe right now, just give them the 3 things versus the 3 things plus the secret menu.
Yeah.
Here's what I like about this is what I always tell people with choice boards. Always have one box that has a question mark and say, have an idea? Ask me. Because some kids might think of something, then it's maybe I have 2 choices, and then I also have if I come up with something. So then you're empowering the kids too.
Yeah, really.
Oh, Michelle Cruz is on here.
Oh, yeah, Michelle Cruz, what's up?
Awesome. She says, she says it's so hard to choose only a few when we're expected to teach in so many different ways. Interesting. So she says 3rd grade's expected to use Google Classroom, but they're so comfortable using Seesaw. You're trying to pull them in 2 different places due to comfort level. Okay, Michelle, something brand new. Okay, this came out August 14th. This is just for you. So on August 14th, you can now take a Seesaw assignment and you can create a link to that assignment for the students. So now if Google Classroom is your one-stop shop for the kids, but you still want to use Seesaw, then you can put the link to the Seesaw assignment in Google Classroom. Boom. I was so excited about that. So brand new, August 14th. If you need to know how, let me know. But those activities, you can send them to Google Classroom.
Actually, I was thinking of a risk that I took. It was more of a hit on my ego, but my conversational Spanish is not meant for academic talk when I'm speaking with parents. It's more for out on the soccer field talking trash with all the guys.
Or ordering tacos.
Yes. Ordering at a restaurant or a taco truck, that's for sure. So I took some risk in the spring calling parents because we were required to. And very few of my parents actually speak English. So I was testing my Spanish and I was fumbling over my words, trying to figure out, okay, how do I say this without using bad words? Because I'm a teacher here. I'm not with the guys right now. I'm out of my comfort zone. So I thought about it all summer and I didn't come up with a solution. And then yesterday I came up with I found a hack, I guess. that can be. I can read Spanish perfectly fine. If I'm reading from a script, if you don't see me that I'm reading, you wouldn't know. So there's a slight delay, but I can understand. But to figure out my response has always been my issue with Spanish. So I'm calling parents on Google Voice. I have Google Translate open, and I hear what they say, and I will type out a response in English, and boom, it's right there in Spanish. I can read it right back to them. So it's like I'm having a conversation. So that was my risk taking where I kind of failed, but I'm on the other side of the tunnel now. I found my footing. So I'm.
As Corey Orlando said, you failed forward.
That's right. I failed forward. So. Yeah, that was my that's my story. I'm sticking.
Your conversation in Spanish is much better than mine. So mine only goes as far as ordering tacos, unfortunately. So
I can barely do that.
Yeah.
So luckily you got somebody there to order them for you. So
That's
but
right.
Adam, what that means, since she doesn't know them as well, you need to order the funky ones like the lengua and the
Oh, I do know what that is.
Buche.
I do know that. I do know that.
I can't trick her like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anymore. I always knew that.
I did trick Dylan one time.
Yes.
I bought like 2 pounds of manteca.
This was so mean.
So because I was gonna cook some asada on the on the flat grill, and I had all
So
this
funny.
manteca. I just
He
put it in the
laughed.
taco truck, and it's white. It looks like cheesecake. I go, Dylan, try some Mexican cheesecake. He's like, okay. And right as he got to the belt, like, no, don't do it. I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't have him eating lard.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that was
So
bad.
just throw some of the green onions on the grill along with it, and it'll go down real good.
That's
There you
right.
go.
That's right. Hey, so we're just about done with our time here for Facebook Live here, but I did want to thank everyone for being here, and I'm gonna drop Barnes and Noble and Amazon as well.
Yes. And I'm actually on Facebook. I'm putting those in the comments as well.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Yeah. So those of us watching, and a lot of times we'll have people that will watch later, because of course Facebook will archive this video. So awesome. Oh, and you got a shout out, Adam, from Michelle.
What'd I do?
How comfortable she is with Google because of you. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Michelle and I shared a wall
Yeah.
and a street for many years.
That's right. That's right. So, all right. Well, Facebook Live, folks, we're going to go ahead and sign off now. And we want to thank you for being here. And thank you, of course, to Kyle as well.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Like, yeah, man.
No problem.
Always a good
Anytime.
time talking to my two homies.
Yep. All
That's right.